Canon's invited a selection of guest speakers and a brilliant bunch of inspirational and all knowledgeable individuals from different corners of the planet to talk about their experiences in the industry and projects, and of course, using Canon kit to do it. There's been lots of exciting announcements today and a range of inspiring new products for cinematographers, filmmakers, and the broadcasting industries. This virtual trade show has been created in place of this year's IBC. And even though it would have been so good to do this in person with actual people, it's really nice to be back doing another virtual showcase after Canon launched the impressively spec'd EOS R5 and R6.
I'm talking to you right now for a C300 Mark II, and I think I've got a C200 just over there.
Yeah.
And then for some of the shoots, I've literally gone C700, right? Big camera, amazing capabilities. And now we've got some new toys that we get to play with. So really exciting.
So you're super au fait with Canon's kit, new and old.
Yes, yes, absolutely, definitely.
Where do I start with the EOS C70? It was definitely a surprise of a camera to look at. I didn't expect a cine camera to look that small. It was like I was holding a DSLR in my hands again. You know, I'm currently using my 6D to do this interview, right? And it feels like I'm holding the same thing. It was knowing that that camera could allow me to be very mobile and versatile in terms of the different angles I need to shoot from, especially because my work as a documentary maker has seen me be a solo shooter a lot. So this camera fit right in with that experience that I've gained over the years.
We couldn't do something with our equipment before, and the C300 Mark III meant we could do something. Being able to offer something to clients that you haven't been able to offer to them before is part of keeping and retaining and winning new business. And, at the end of the day, I'm a creative, yes, but I also run 3 businesses, and, you have to make money. And so if you can offer things that you couldn't before, that's a huge win. In this particular case, we've never been able to offer both high frame rates and the kind of color control that we need.
When I'm shooting, I like to work with the cameras that makes my life easy. I made the commercial, and the result was fantastic. I have the opportunity to shoot very different situations. I mean, I made interior night, interior day, exterior day, so I can test in all situations. And I love the results. I mean, the full frame look, the raw light files, the summaries. But basically, these 3 options for me makes difference with other cameras.
If you have one camera that can actually do a lot more for you, then that's a winner. Getting more but spending less. Pretty sure everyone wants that.
As a video journalist, what would you say are the most important things for you?
I need to make sure that my equipment is portable, especially when you're in challenging situations like a humanitarian crisis or conflict zone, or even just a place where you need to stay nimble. You need to make sure that you have equipment that you're not going to have to be worrying about. You need long life batteries. Every dead battery is going to weigh on your body when you're moving, right? So you need to make sure that when you have a one-take wonder, that autofocus is actually going to lock in and allow you to get what you need. And also, equipment that can take a bit of a beating, which is something that I've always liked about Canon, is the fact that, you don't have to be too precious about it. It will survive.
Well, we use an AI system, basically, to analyze thousands and millions of images and to be able to detect what a person looks like and where they are in the frame. So it knows what the person is, whichever direction they are. And this allows the camera to track and pick up people much better than ever before.
There's a pressing to stay effective and efficient, and that's where Canon comes in, because it's just a solution that works. From my first film camera to my first digital camera, all of a sudden having Canon, because that's been a solution I've been able to grab and actually work for me at every time in my career.
We used to say that you can go from glass to glass with Canon, so from the glass on the front of the lens, right the way through to the glass in the ND filters and the sensor, right the way through to our monitors. You can create something and then look at something with a Canon brand on it.
The 4K 120 frame cinema raw light, that's great, but I think a more subtle but almost more impactful aspect of the C300 Mark III is the DGO technology in the sensor, because what that's doing without me having to be conscious of it too much is it's allowing the images to be far easier when we get to post-production, and in particular for HDR deliverables. It creates a far more pleasing image just straight within the camera. Then once you start digging into that image in post-production for your grade, you realize, oh, I don't have to add noise reduction to this very high dynamic range shot. Oh, I don't have to worry about, rolling off the high soft into those high luminance or high saturation areas because they kind of get a little bit nasty and ragged. You actually realize that there's less to do with it, and it's a wonderful technology. The fact it's just in the background working in your favor is a big plus for this camera.
The great thing with the range of cameras that we have, whether it's the C300 Mark III, C500, the C70 that we announced yesterday, or even the R5, is you can actually shoot and then work with that footage and easily match the look of the video you're after.
Now what I'm looking for, maybe it's a camera that I can afford. And because the camera is smaller and more affordable, that gives me a new opportunity to get a first camera for cinema, maybe for some, a second camera for others, or actually be able to afford to have multiple cameras because you want to be able to do a 2-camera shoot, for example.
In Japan, there is an orchid called Sumire, and when Canon brought out this lens, it was about the beautiful bloom like a Sumire orchid. You are actually able to get a very creative look, more depth of field, more breakaway from the foreground to the background in your shot. So when filmmakers, documentary makers, commercial makers are looking for something a little different, something a little wider, having a very fast lens that allows you to have this beauty look, this the separation that you get with the lens is one thing. And then of course with full frame, we're getting so much more in the image. And when we get to the edge of, especially with full frame lenses and with a full frame sensor, you can get very creative looks and feels at the edge of the glass that fills that sensor. So it is very much down to being able to deliver these new creative looks that filmmakers are wanting to delve into.
I like to document things as they are, unrehearsed if I can. For me, it was a win-win. Probably the most unrigged camera I've used in my life. I didn't really have to have much to add to the camera because everything was inbuilt.
He thought, I think a lot of people were going to think this was shot on a gimbal. He couldn't believe how smooth it was looking. 5-axis electronic image stabilization in this camera as well. The same one that's featured in our C300 Mark III and the C500 Mark II.
The EOS C70, which also happens to be the first cinema EOS camera to incorporate the RF mount and is the most compact and lightweight cinema EOS camera to date.
Making all the features like autofocus and IS faster, it's just that communication between lens and camera. They have a 12-pin connector instead of the 8-pin connector from EF lenses. It's just that much faster. So it's great.
You know what's new right now? We've got women in film now. And so when I actually said in the beginning that we have democratization of storytelling, it's not just only a super technical place where we have jeans and pants of men and guys and running. We've got women in films, and I tell you, they are titans.
The key feature there is just autofocus.
Everybody loves recording RAW.
The Sumire has personality. And that's very nice.
So stabilization. I love it, right?
I think the star of it for me was the autofocus.
It makes my life easy. Again, it feels like I'm cheating. I'm picking a camera that means I have to do less work.